Good afternoon and welcome to Webinar Wednesdays with IHA. Today our presenters will be talking about revamping your supply chain for e-commerce and other emerging trends. Today our presenters, Lauren Piantek, who is the logistics lead at Bodum and has been with this global housewares manufacturer for the last 5 years. She oversees Bodum's North American finished goods supply chain with a diverse and customized product assortment. Lauren holds a BA in economics and psychology from Wake Forest University and resides in Manhattan, New York. Here's a fun fact to start off today. Since 1974, Bodum has produced 100 million French coffee presses and 30 million teapots. Lauren is co-presenting today with Dino Moeller. Dino is Executive Vice President of Client Solutions at Saint Logistics, where he has worked for more than a decade to develop flexible and highly innovative solutions for supply chains and housewares, consumer goods, manufacturing, and other areas of retail fulfillment. He also currently serves as Chairman of the Board for the Transportation Marketing and Sales Association. IHA is very pleased to have these two presenting for us, and recently, Saint Logistics was IHA's lead VIP sponsor at the Chief Housewares Executive Super Session that was 2 weeks ago here in Chicago. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce Lauren and Dino. And lastly, all questions will be asked at the end of the webinar. Lauren, Dino.
Great. Thank you, Jenny. This is Dino Moeller, and on behalf of Lauren and I, we do appreciate the opportunity to share our success story. And the success story is not just a snapshot in time, it's an ongoing evolution of partnership that we forged together and we want to share. What we're going to explore today, as you see on the screen, there are 5 primary points that we want to discuss. Lauren's going to take the first 2 and give an opportunity for each of you to learn a little bit about Bodum's business model, their philosophy of quality and product, and more importantly, what we're going to be discussing is their distribution. Within that distribution, there are challenges and trends that Bodum's supply chain is evolving and experiencing and advancing as we move forward today. At that moment, I'll take over afterwards and start talking about how we arrived at where we are and what's the future state of where we're going from an advancement perspective. We'll be looking at the supply chain needs that we needed to address to create a solid foundation for Bodum and Saint to continue to advance and grow within the challenging marketplace. We'll then look at some of the capabilities that we are enabling from an omnichannel fulfillment strategy to continue to advance and improve. And then at the end of this presentation, Lauren will get to the basics. What were the results? What did we accomplish and what are we accomplishing? And then more importantly, how are we measuring, responding, and taking action upon trends that may be happening within the supply chain of Bodum and the marketplace. So we look forward to having the opportunity to explore and provide this information, and I'd like to turn it now over to Lauren to give you a good insight of Bodum.
Great, thank you, Dino. So as mentioned, our company was founded in 1944 in Denmark. Our current headquarters are located in Switzerland. So although we've been around for over 70 years, we maintain the family-owned atmosphere. We have a company-owned factory in Portugal, which allows us to diversify our supply chain and also customize it to our customer needs. In terms of our most well-known product, the most well-known product of ours would be our Chambord French press. It's located in the middle, and then on the left we have our pour-over. So it is a recent line addition of ours. And then on the right we have one of our oldest products. It was brought about in 1958 and continues to remain in our assortment. It's known as our vacuum coffee maker. And all 3 products share the same philosophy as Bodum. Make taste, not waste. They can all be used without a filter, and the coffee, the resulting coffee will taste amazing. So in terms of our distribution, we operate, we sell through 55 countries. And I think something that most people can relate to is that we are a fairly small company, but we do have to be able to operate on a global scale. We ship all over the globe, and then we also ship to 20 Bodum branded stores worldwide. In terms of our relationship with Saint, they're responsible for our American distribution. So our main customer base is located in the U.S., but we also ship to Canada and South America as well. Within the U.S. and Canada, we ship to many different channels, from big box retailers such as Target and Walmart. We have a large online presence with Amazon, and then we also have to be quick and ship immediately to our direct-to-consumer through our website, and then drop ship customers as well. With all of these different channels, there is quite unique and diverse requirements for each of them. So within the past year, we've really been able to work on a lot of projects with Saint, and it's something that has been great. It's dramatically shortened our lead time. We've been able to do some final assembly projects and ship them out, reducing our lead time from 6 months to 60 days. We've had them turn around projects over the weekend. We've had them reconfigure case packs specifically for some of our larger retailers. And then as well, they've been able to kit products. So although we have a company-owned factory in Portugal, we do still have product that comes from China. So we've been able to have products kitted and then shipped out to our customers. Something that we've also really appreciated is the scale of projects. So we've had products where we've had to maybe turn around 50 products, and Saint has been able to work with us on that. And then recently we have a project coming up where we'll be shipping out 1,000 pallets in the span of 2 weeks, which is a huge project and something that Saint welcomed with open arms, which has been great. I think we're
good. Great, Lauren. Thanks for the introduction to Bodum. And if you have any questions, as Jenny had said, we'll be more than glad to address those. If you could just keep track, if there's something about Bodum you'd like to learn a little bit more about, we'll be able to address those at the end. So what I want to start talking to you about is, how did we get to where we're at? From some of the trends and challenges that Lauren had just shared, we have to look backwards just a bit. And it's important to understand our path, one, so we're not making common mistakes, but also to understand and maintain the culture of Bodum, so that we're not drastically changing something that is part of the brand, part of the design, and part of the culture. At the same time, we're wanting to make sure that we're focusing on foundation elements of improvement. So 3 years ago, Bodum was with another provider, and as their change started happening, they started rationalizing how do they stay relevant for the future. So 3 years ago, they did an RFP, and Saint is a big advocate of this industry. It's a great option for anyone that's out there that is maybe looking at different avenues or outsourcing today. I think it's just a really good option. So 3 years ago, we were honored with the opportunity to provide services to Bodum, and we started immediately looking at, how do we make improvement and advancement? So a couple of the key things that popped out, and you'll see them here on this screen, is that there was a rationalization that the processes of engagement to the marketplace and then ultimately to the ultimate customer, the consumer, either at their doorstep or on the shelf or at the cash register, was outdated. So from an overall channel, they just needed improvement. There was a good process. It was just a little outdated to the trends and things that are happening within the industry. The second thing was the technology enablement. So as there were manual processes, there was also other technologies that needed to create, from EDI to RF to visibility, so that there was more real-time agility provided into the channel. So as these new projects, as Lauren covered, popped up, or as the retailer, both online or bricks and mortar, created new demands or even created new channel segments, we could respond without a lot of waste or a lot of back and forth. So it gave us good intel data to allow us to have agility. As we started moving forward, looking at the partnership from a true omni-channel fulfillment, these are 6 categories that we immediately knew we needed to make impact. We knew that we immediately need to make a focused effort to make change. And again, these are not changes that were just in a snapshot. These are foundation builders to continue to advance, to continue to be agile and responsive to the Bodum customer and then ultimately to the Bodum consumer. The first one is we started looking at automated inventory tracking. So in essence, creating visibility. One, to help manage levels of inventory, manage the cycle of the life cycle of the inventory. As Lauren had said, there's offshore distribution, so we wanted to make sure from a supply and demand we could start looking at it in more real time. But more importantly, from the logistics planning perspective within Bodum US, they wanted to make sure they understood what was in the facility, at what status it was. If it was in an inbound, was it sellable? Was it a return? Is it in a value-added state where we're kitting or adding other additional values? So it all came back down to visibility, and the automation was just the process to enable it. The second factor was EDI automation for SKU data. Now that may sound like it's just a master file, but what we're really talking about is creating continuity and creating reliability in the data or the orders that were being passed over. So we chose to use an EDI format, and as an order comes from the cell to the logistics planning to LaSaint, we wanted to make sure that we understood specifically that what the continuity of that order required from the type of SKUs, the number of lines, things of that sort. And it may sound like a simple avenue, but it was an avenue, again, about creating foundation so that, as many of you, if you're playing with the bigger boxes, chargebacks can be a concern. We wanted to make sure that we managed our destiny as much as possible in that area. So fill rates and short and overages were something that we wanted to continually manage against the order, not against the process. 3, integration of unique retailer routing guides. As Lauren had just commented, the channels continue to change, not only from a B2C and a B2B, but just from the mechanisms out as we're getting orders, and back to the chargebacks, the requirements. And a lot of this routing guide is about customer experience. So it's the customer experience of the retailer. It's properly filled, it's the right count, it's in the right packaging, pallet height, it's on the right carrier, any of those things. So we started integrating so that the customer service representative wasn't putting in as much human factor into it. It was about process management, making sure that compliance wasn't something we shot for, it was something that we managed to. And it was really more about us keeping control of that routing guide and destiny. As Lauren said, dropship order continues to come about, and what we really wanted to look at is deeper customization, packing slips, blind packaging, could be samples, different things that are happening within that shipped order. And as that channel continues to grow and speed continues to be the key element here, we looked at a lot of different customization, not only from the compliance, but from the customer experience side of it, and the speed. The dropship orders can come in all times, and really our path forward with Bodum is same day, same ship. So we needed to make sure that we customized the approach, not only from a systematic view, but also from the expectations of the quality of the folks that are wearing the Bodum hat working for LaSaint. So it was just a key element. The 5th key element of this partnership that we were forging was just enhanced reporting and data. We talked about data earlier as one of the areas of concern or area of improvement. The data becomes an element for us to look for advancement. It tells us the trends of the customer buyer. It tells us the trends of how the orders are coming in, the inventory levels, the cycle counting levels, things of that sort. But data is just data until you can start creating it into intelligence. And that's where some of the reporting mechanisms that we've used has added. Lauren's going to talk a little bit about our KPIs, which is one of the elements of reporting. But there are lots of different reports that we've mutually created to understand how do we control the business path. And when the business path may have a step off of it, what does it take from a trends perspective to bring us back to alignment? Not only alignment between Bodom and LaSaint at the end of the day, but alignment to the consumer, which is the key element of the ultimate customer path. Our sixth set here as far as the forging is the flexibility to take on special projects and rush orders, and Lauren just covered those. We really, as LaSaint and Bodom mutually, we took the attitude that it's not let's do it one day, it's about let's do it today. And we really focused on how do we create an infrastructure of flexibility so that as special orders come, we are prepared. And as you know, those special orders may not always have a fence around them. They can be very dynamic and have a little bit of a twist each time. But from a good communication approach between Bodom and LaSaint, we sit down and talk about the what-if scenarios. And importantly, as we look at a new project, we really sit back down and use LaSaint's 360 logic path is to do a discovery. Do we understand what the project is? Making sure that we create the design, implement it, perform it, and then more importantly, how do we measure it and see how we can improve it the next time that something relatively similar pops up. So these were the six, I think, pillars of some of the partnership to move to the true omni-channel fulfillment. What I will tell you is that, you don't stop here. The market's continually changing, as you all know, and we want to make sure that we can adapt and be agile. Just to give a little insight on how we operate mutually with Bodom, their operation is located in Romeoville, Illinois. It's one of LaSaint's 14 facilities around the U.S. The key reasoning behind the geographic here is it's a good reach to the bricks and mortar. It has a good path to their consumer. So in many ways, it was centrally located, but centrally located enough to also be able to entertain any mode of transportation, getting later cutoffs, things of that sort. But what I think the key here is, and we've continued to grow with Bodom, is our approach is to create innovation through the operating model, but it's for a shared warehouse facility. So the old days of a public warehouse where you just get space, we continue to take that further by bringing technology, our value-added services, the visibility to omni-channel fulfillment on a scale that gives you the same efficiencies and the performance levels that are usually only available in a dedicated warehouse, and a dedicated warehouse meaning one customer, one building. We're constantly being able to look at how do we share resources to help lower costs? How do we bring talent in when we need to do surges in these special projects? And that's really the innovation that we've mutually brought to the table from an operating model to help separate and also help advance the growth of Bodom without putting a lot of fixed costs and fixed elements around it. The second part of the operation is it's flexible staffing. So again, we're in a shared environment. We still are able to create consistency and continuity, and that is due to RF, so systems, processes, SOP training, cross-training through an employee community. And even though Bodom, as Lauren had said, has a lot of velocity, we really only have 3 FTEs assigned to it. And then we use temp and we use redeployment of other staff within the building to help control the surges. As everybody knows, it would be a perfect world if orders always came in at a certain time and they always came in at a certain time of the week, but we know that doesn't happen, especially as you continue to get into a consumer buyer. They may be buying it on the weekend or they buy on Thursday night. All those trends hit. This has allowed us to adjust to the demand, and the demand as it relates to either the evens or the flows, so just to make sure that we are taking care of them at any time of the day, at any time of the week, based on the demand. So in a quick snapshot, the operation here in Romeoville is portrayed as a shared community bringing same innovation and flexible staffing to the table. Lauren, would you like to cover the business outcomes?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Dino. So when we first started this relationship together, we had a lot of conversations about how would we measure the success of our relationship, and we had some input and LaSaint had some input, but the end goal was what would ultimately have the best relationship with our customers. And with that in mind, we settled upon a few key performance indicators, which LaSaint measures on a monthly basis. And after coming back with those figures, we have a call and we kind of discuss what we've been successful in the past month, and what we perhaps need to work on and continue to in a continuous improvement process. So in terms of on-time shipping, we kept that in mind in terms of our drop ship customers as well as our B2C customers. If customers are placing an order in the morning, is it going to be shipping out at night? Or is it going to be shipping out in the next day? So we strive to hit within the same day shipping. With shipping accuracy, chargebacks are a real concern for Bodum, and they're something that we keep in mind constantly and something that we continuously strive to bring down those costs. So shipping accuracy, we want to be able to ship the right product at the right time with the right carrier, and we don't want to ship it too early, we don't want to ship it too late. So it's really making sure that everything is going according to plan. In terms of put-away timeliness, we have customer returns from our B2C customers. They send returns back to LaSaint, and we, in order to process and give credits to our end consumer, we need to make sure that we're receiving the product. So we ultimately strive to get those received in as soon as possible. And then in terms of inventory unit accuracy, we've employed a cycle count program with LaSaint, and the ultimate goal of this is to avoid any unexpected shortages. So we're not saying we're shipping a product to a customer and then having to later tell them that that's actually not going to be shipping. So with those key performance indicators in mind, we've really been able to focus on what we need to improve upon in terms of shipping and inventory units. And with the success of those key performance indicators, we've really been able to significantly reduce retailer chargebacks and penalties, which is always a great aspect for our finance team. And we've also been able to improve our customer relationships. We're shipping the order at the right time. They're getting it in the day they expect it. And then we've been able to be seen as a more reliable retailer, that we will ship the product and it will get there and we will be able to ship it as soon as possible.
Great.
Yeah.
So I think at this point, Jenny, if you would, we could open up to the group if there's any questions and answers. We'll give the answers. If there's any questions, that would be great.
Sure. Our first question, Dino and Lauren, is from your perspective and experience, what's the biggest challenge in omni-channel fulfillment facing manufacturers today?
Lauren, do you want me to go with this one?
Sure, go ahead.
All right, good. Well, I think the range, it really does have the idea of uniqueness. So omnichannel is really about connecting manufacturing through transportation to warehousing and fulfillment, back to transportation to consumption, and in reverse. So each one of those channels for a manufacturer may have a little bit of a different twist depending on if they're offshore, nearshore, or in-state manufacturing. But I think the uniqueness is relative to how diverse your retailer-specific shipment requirements are, meaning what channel, what role are you playing with that retailer to understand where's that perspective going to be. Lauren had stated in the last slide about having the retailer look at them with confidence that they're a good provider. I think those are those elements of, how big the challenge could be or how the challenge starts to smooth out by making sure that you're doing what you're saying. Some of those KPIs that Lauren shared are also KPIs that they have with their customer. And I think those are some of the largest challenges, to make sure you're measuring the right data or the right experience, to understand that you may be measuring something A, but your retailer is really focused on B, and you completely miss where the value proposition is. So I think for me, and Lauren can add here, it's just making sure that you're understanding the playing field from the uniqueness value and setting up the right mechanisms to follow through.
Great. This question is for you, Lauren. How many SKUs does Bodum have with Listings?
Ooh, that's a good question. So as a manufacturer, we're constantly bringing in new products to kind of refresh our product line, and then in the process also reducing our SKU count. I would say about right now, about 500 SKUs. So that's including parts and then also finished goods.
Okay, here's another one. How much improvement was accomplished in reduction of chargebacks from retail accounts? Can you quantify as a percentage of sales or percentage of improvement?
Yes, I don't have a specific dollar amount, I apologize, but we did, in the first year we were able to reduce it by about 90%, and that reduction has remained pretty constant.
Okay.
There's a new benchmark now, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Always, continuous improvement is important.
You guys are popular. We have quite a few questions. Another question here is, can you share more specifics about the manual processes that Bodum automated when they made this transition?
You want me to take that one?
Yeah, I guess you can speak a little bit better to that.
Yeah, well, I think we covered a few of them. So, probably the largest, if you look back at the order life cycle, it was truly getting the order not in a flat file or via an email or a phone call to a CSR. And those were some of the manual processes that, as we started looking at it, adoption of EDI, making it an electronic interface, was probably one of the key specifics that we got out of the manual side. And it wasn't just about speed, but it was about continuity of data and reliability of data. So that was, one of the specifics. And so we looked at what were the key communication protocols we needed to use, what data did we need to get from Bodum, and at the same time, what did we want to send back and to their customers, if it's ASMs or if it's an inventory check at the end of each day, or reports that show, what was shipped, back to Lauren's point about, we want 100% or close to 100% same day, same ship. We also want to communicate when some of those orders weren't shipped, for what reason. So those were things that we automated through report mechanisms that became either a push or a pull type of report, not necessarily somebody picking up the phone and trying to talk through it. So I think from the specifics on EDI, that was the key, taking from a manual to an automated process from the tracking side of it. And there's other things like automated routing guides. So we've taken a lot of the guessing list to do updates, things of that sort.
Okay. Here's another one. Is Bodum shipping consumers directly on sales to Amazon or shipping to Amazon warehouses?
Right now, we are shipping to Amazon warehouses. We do operate on a dropship basis with a few other customers, and then we also ship directly if people were to order from our website.
So basically, we can assume logistics-related costs have declined as a result of the relationship with Bodum and Listings.
Yeah, I would say Yeah, sorry, I'll jump in on this one. Yeah, I can answer that. Yeah, our costs on a operating model have been reduced, and then some hidden costs such as chargebacks have also been dramatically reduced. So I would say it's definitely a reduction both in actual costs and then hidden costs as well.
And I can add there real quick, Jenny. You know, there's an element of what cost is. So one of the things that we continue to do with Bodum and will continue to do as we move forward, there's a budget year each year, and there's growth that's forecasted. So looking at absolute dollars is not always an indicator that you've managed your cost, but that percentage of sales, as one of the questions had indicated, or a cost of an order. The cost of a B2B order may be completely different from a structural perspective as the cost of a consumer, a direct-to-consumer order, or a drop ship to DC order. So the challenge in looking at costs is it's gotten a little bit more extreme in that there isn't one cost that covers everything. Of course, you can look at the end of a year and look at your cost and relate it to the number of orders or relate it to the number of SKUs or lines moved. But I think the challenge that we're going to continue to be focused on, especially in budgeting and cost management, is cost by channel, so that you can understand, you know, is that channel productive for us? Is it creating real margin or real return? And within that channel, who are the players? And are we truly making a good element of margin or return within, let's say, bricks and mortar, within the different types of retailers, so that you really start to dissect a little deeper in what cost means versus just looking at it as an overall budget to fixed, you know, expense or budget to spend type of ratio. So I think that's where the trend that we're going to need to continue to look at is adding a little complexity, which just gives you more information and more agility to make you know, more strategic decisions as it relates to growth, and even possibly looking at the way this, you know, profit related or cost related to SKUs types of products. So I think that's where we'll continue to have to go deeper.
Great. So basically, Dino, you kind of covered this a little bit. So you would, so Lasaint does provide their own EDI solution, or do they interface with commercial providers like TrueCommerce? Could you kind of cover that a little bit again, please?
Sure, no problem at all. So we do have direct EDI connections to some customers and even some retailers as it requires. We go from one extreme to the other, and on the extreme, we're actually billing for one customer to the retailer. So that's a whole different type of relationship of information, because then we know what, you know, their sellable cost for product is. But in a traditional model, we do all in-house development. John Zai, our Senior Director of IT, has formulated a strong team that looks at being able to program, design, map, not only any of the protocols, but any of the labels and so forth. We are a strategic partner of SPS Commerce, but we also have interfaces with DI Central, B2B Gateway. We use any of the required, as was just referenced, any type of the forms that we need to go through to get orders or do routing. So in essence, we're doing a little bit of everything. You know, the challenge in being a customized solution provider is making sure as you touch various points that you still have a good solid SOP from a management perspective and how we measure the success. But so today we do have a little bit of both. The primary is through an integrator like an SPS Commerce that it also allows us to shorten the cycle and the risk of transition versus, you know, you can get costly to do 30 maps to 30 different channels or 30 different trading partners versus having an opportunity to go through an SPS type of commerce scenario. But we do program, test, and everything in-house.
Great, thanks, Dino. Another one, how instrumental was your existing procurement and packaging supplier in this success, or is that the next project?
Are you asking, Lauren, you want me to take that?
I can answer.
Good.
So I think that is something that we continuously try to improve as well in our supply chain. But I think in terms of our relationship with Saint, that's what they have offered us is kind of a final check on making sure that our supply chain is operating as it should be, and if it's not, what can be done to kind of improve the packaging or improve the case pack before it gets out the door to the customer. So that's something that we're looking at in our supply chain, but that's something that Saint has been kind of a stop, so things aren't going out the door incorrectly.
And I can add to that, as the dimensional pricing has continued to advance and evolve from especially the small parcel providers, we're constantly looking at not only are we packing it the right way so that it arrives intact, but what we're putting in it, so that we can look at is there ways to shrink the box without compromising the product within. So before you even get to the procurement side, it's about the planning side. And we're going to continue to look through that using Cubiscan and think of that sort to say, is there a method that we can put as much box around it as needed? And of course, there's a box chain. It's different if it's going to shelf or if it's going to the doorstep from a packaging perspective, and how it gets handled, how it gets thrown around in a truck, and so forth. So, but once we know that design, and we continually, as Bodum brings on new products or other client brings on new products, we need to be able to look at those. Then it's procurement time, and we want to make sure that we're sourcing the right vendor to help us with anything that's unique about the box, not only from the specs, but if there's private labeling that they want to be on it. So we do manage the procurement side, and then constantly look at the utilization of that product. So as Lauren said, that it's something that we need to be doing, and we do constantly as their products, new SKUs are advanced, or even a new retailer or trading partner comes on and has maybe a new requirement from a wall width or anything of that sort.
Okay, I think we have one more here. Would you be able to give some more details behind the models you're using to ship direct to customer? This can be a major struggle at companies who have traditionally shipped larger bulk or pallet quantities to retail stores.
Yeah, I can address that. There, maybe not specifically with Bodum, but I can give you a reference to Bodum. And some of this, first of all, as we look at small parcel fulfillment, you have to set up your picking strategy differently than just going to a locator somewhere in the warehouse. So we have high velocity picking environments where we know the top 50 SKUs are normally in an order in general. And so we stage those so that they are within arm's reach to conveyors to pick, more agile and more rapidly. But I think the key also, especially from a direct-to-consumer, is speed, but it's also the quality of the packaging. So, the details that we look at are, when we first started, we would ship a box to ourselves or to one of the folks to make sure and see how it arrived. What did it look like? Did it get a corner bruised or what have you? So some of it is just making sure that you've proven the process that you're using. Anytime you can add value add, and meaning adding value before you consumption, is traditionally, if you're building, let's say you have a 3 SKU package, a point of purchase, where it's, in Bodum's case, it had a coffee bean storage, coffee maker, and maybe a grinder or some other things in it. Instead of building those offshore or building those in another third-party environment, shipping everything here in bulk SKU and allowing us to build those on demand, so you're not shipping there, you're also taking advantage of bulk shipping and then turning it into more of an online facilitation order delivery. So building on demand, I think, is just a key, because each one of those SKUs has its own life cycle by itself. This just may be for Christmas or for a holiday or for a promotion. Instead of creating all those that eventually you may have to tear apart, from a consumer perspective, we want to be agile in being able to ship it as a single line or build it and ship it as a multiple line. So I think some of those details around the ship direct to consumer. As Lauren said, you know, some of the biggest challenge in ship to consumer is address verification. And so that challenge allows us to make sure that we're, as we keep looking at going to doorstep and as, you know, other delivery mechanisms like Uber and things of that sort are popping up, we want to make sure that it's packaged correctly and it is completely correct as it relates to what they ordered is what they're getting delivered to their doorstep from that experience. Because at the end of the day, you want them to buy something else again. That reorder behavior is the key to the direct-to-consumer opportunity.
Well, that's great. I believe that's all we have right now. And on behalf of IHA, I would like to thank Lauren of Bodom and our preferred chest supplier and partner, Atlas St. Dino. And if any of you would like to pass this information on or refer to it again, please visit at www.housewares.org. It will be on our website. And also, if you have any questions, feel free to contact Lauren or Dino, their contact information. And they also have a complimentary study of Bodom and with Saint. So that would be of great information to you as well. Once again, have a great day, and thank you both for all your wealth of information.
Thank you.
Thank you.